This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good morning. This is Frida Lewis, Open for Business. Now, if you've ever wondered how a stem cell business works, we're going to find out. I'm here with James Ten, Managing Director of CryoCort. And, earlier on in our discussion, you were giving me all these details like, whoa, okay. Now, tell me, this company has been around for 10 years. Now, why did you decide to start this company 10 years ago?
Oh, yeah. About 10 years ago, my brother, actually, Dr. Tanak, he gave me a call and said that stem cells banking is a growing industry in the West, and there's no way that small Malaysian companies could actually get into medical. This is probably the beginning and the foothold you could try on stem cells banking, and we managed to get some investors, including a professor from HUKM, to join us on board. Those days I didn't even know what stem cells was. Went to the internet, do some search and to study what it is, and there you go.
Okay.
And that's how we started.
So this conversation with your brother, before it actually became a business, how long did this research take?
Yeah, it took us a while. It's a bit of a challenge to persuade some local investors, because it's totally new at those days. There was a bank in Singapore, and understanding also another bank coming up in Malaysia. So there was kind of an urgency to move forward, to quickly start up a cord blood bank.
But at that time, I guess it's an MSC status company. So that was something the MSC saw as huge potential.
Oh yes, MSCs those days was primarily looking at IT sectors, technology sectors, and we presented our case to them, and they were quite happy since this is technology sectors. Those they don't have any bionixes. They were quite keen to actually give us the status.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess when you pass people your card, and then they will say, so it's about umbilical cord. That's all they know, right? About preserving the umbilical cord of a baby. But obviously, there's a lot more to this business. So tell us a little bit how it works.
Okay, umbilical cord blood contains mainly blood stem cells, hematopoietic stem cells. Hematopoietic stem cells actually differentiate into blood components like white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets. It is used for hematological diseases, anemia, thalassemia, leukemia. One needs to know that these blood stem cells do not actually cure this type of diseases. It's actually chemotherapy. Chemotherapy actually kills the disease. Stem cells goes in to repopulate.
I see.
The host body.
Right, in the event of cancer.
Yeah, event of serious cancer. In fact, this stem cell transplant in hematological setting is actually a very dangerous transplant, and it's quite a costly matters.
Okay. So obviously, this probably got more popular as women got pregnant, went to see the doctors, and the doctors would suggest, why don't you consider putting your stem cell, your placenta into a bank, so that people have a vague understanding of what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
What else does your company offer?
As we move on, we not only store the umbilical cord blood stem cells, we also store what's called the mesenchymal stem cells. In an adult body, including infant, there are two types of stem cells. One is the cord blood, the blood stem cells, which is known as the hematopoietic stem cells. The other is actually the mesenchymal stem cells found in tissues. Tissues like the umbilical cord wart and jelly, in the fat, in bone marrow tissues, is found almost everywhere in a human body, and there's a reason why they are there. These mesenchymal stem cells.
Okay.
So instead of getting it from all places in the body, one could actually harvest it from places that is less invasive, or in places where these cells, these tissues are being thrown away, such as the umbilical cord. Normally, once is delivered, baby is delivered, the cord is actually being thrown away. So why do you throw away when there are lots of potential of mesenchymal stem cells? If you visit this site called clinicaltrials.gov, a US government website, you see a number of mesenchymal stem cell research. Majorities are bone marrow derived mesenchymal stem cells, because this is the main source of mesenchymal stem cells that is was initially found many years ago. But the second number of higher studies in clinical trials in all over the world is actually cord-derived mesenchymal stem cells from the Wharton jelly of the umbilical cord. So there is a huge potential. And the third is actually from the fat-derived mesenchymal stem cells. Of course, most of the studies so far is actually hematopoietic stem cells in general for hematological diseases. That comprises probably about 80-90%.
So you work very closely with doctors and universities?
Yes. This year we actually sponsored a few research in Utah Medical School and HUKM. We were the first company in HUKM, actually private company, to put forward a relatively huge sum of money. And they were very happy that private companies like us could come forward, and therefore they reciprocate with a similar amount from the university.
If you look at your potential customers, say I as an individual, I'm healthy, what should I consider? Should I be, using your services? What should I consider?
Yeah, stem cells in general, when in adult, it actually we get less stem cells as we grow older. And if you look at the stem cells, every time it divides or it replicates, it actually loses what is called the telomere length. Okay, it's a tail in the DNA. So the stem cell loses a bit of its stemness. Okay. So as we age, okay, although it still maintains the stem cell, but it loses the stemness. Okay. So I would propagate if you could. I mean, you could store your stem cell, whether it's a fat or your bone marrow stem cells. Do it as early as possible.
So how much would that cost?
The cost, it depends on the number of cells and which portion you get it from. From a couple of thousand to about 10,000-20,000. Yeah.
So these are healthy individuals who come in, and then they think, in case anything should happen, I have something in the bank.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
All right. And over the years as well, how much would you have spent or invested in research?
We have invested a couple of millions since day one in internal research and in collaboration with several universities.
All right. And I guess also there are misconceptions around stem cells, and we'll discuss that in just a moment. I'm here with James Ten from Cryocort. It's open for business, BFM 89.9. It's open for business and bring forth moolah indeed. James Ten, Managing Director of Cryocort, and we're discussing the business of stem cells. And right now, are there a lot of players in Malaysia with what you're doing?
Yes. As far as cord blood is concerned, there are currently 4 licensed banks in Malaysia. But in terms of therapeutics research, the private companies, there are a handful of them, about 4 or 5 of them, majority of which are actually dealing with mesenchymal stem cells and another type of cells known as the dendritic cells and NK, natural killer cells for cancers.
Okay. You have another company, a sister company,
Cytopeutics.
Cytopeutics. Sorry. What does that do?
Cytopeutics, the words suggest that cyto is actually cell. Peutics come from the words therapeutics. So it means using cells for therapies. Cytopeutics has been established for about around 4 years, working closely with HUKM. There are currently 4 clinical trials with HUKM.
Okay.
Also, Cytopeutics is also working with Utah and Adventist, Gleneagles, and several hospitals trying to set up some trials. A word of caveat here is that when you want to do stem cell therapies, currently most stem cell therapies are either developmental or experimental.
Right.
So the only approved therapies are actually hematopoietic stem cells therapy for hematopoietic diseases. But if you use hematopoietic stem cells for other diseases, that should be also under developmental and experimental.
All right. So with your clients, do they come directly to you or they go through doctors?
Yeah, we deal with doctors and hospitals and universities.
All right, so not so much individuals coming to you. We have
some inquiries here and there, and we will refer all them back to the doctors.
Okay, so that's in a way, your customer, and they explain it further. They explain it to the potential patients, sort of thing.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, now like with for the very simple one where people keep their umbilical cord and all that, right? How much does it cost to do that?
Cord blood, it costs around 2,003 with annual storage fee about 250. If you want to include mesenchymal stem cell from the Wharton jelly, the umbilical cord, that will cost about 5,000 to about 7,000 with annual storage fee about $600.
That will be
if you store both the cord blood hematopoietic stem cell and the Wharton jelly umbilical cord mesenchymal stem cells.
Right, that will be the main source of revenue for you guys at this point.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Do you have a number of how many are being kept at the moment, or can you reveal that?
Yes, about 30,000 now.
Oh, really? And these are beyond the shores of Malaysia?
Yes, we have customers from Singapore, a few from Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and elsewhere.
Okay, now is this something, when you talk about the cost, is this something within reach for the average Malaysian? Or this is, I guess, something that, only if you can afford it, I guess, middle to higher income?
Yeah, I would think so, middle to higher income. But for those who can't really pay to store this, we always encourage them to go to PDN, Pusat Darah Negara, to donate their cord blood stem cells.
Okay. Now, also, I guess in your line of business, IP protection is a very key area?
Yes and no, because unfortunately the biotech in a line of business, IP is something that is very difficult to establish. Once the paper is being published, you can't really establish an IP. But there are some companies out there in the world has put up several IPs, which is quite questionable.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Why?
Why? Because anyone can put up IP. Okay, when you come to really challenge an IP, there's always loopholes, and there's always who is the first to publish and so forth.
Okay.
It's a lengthy issue.
Okay. Now, over the years as well, you've grown quite a fair bit in the last 10 years. Tell us a bit about how the number of staff you have.
We started about 3-4 staff. Today we have over 100 staff over a period of 10 years. I think it's pretty encouraging.
And where do they fall into the 100 staff? What do they do?
Majority of our staff, about 30% sales, another 25 or so percent are in the laboratory. Remaining are management, finance, administration.
All Malaysians?
All Malaysians,
okay.
That's right.
All right. And obviously, now, one of the things, as we were just saying as well, that people have these misconceptions about the ethical issues around stem cell, but it's not what you guys do.
Yes.
Right? So please explain what it's all about.
Yes. In US, for example, when you go to US, if you talk about stem cells, the first thing that comes to people's mind are embryonic stem cells. Okay, George Bush actually banned public funding on embryonic stem cells, but private funding could actually go on those days. Now, why? Because again, embryos are fertilized eggs, and from the IVF lab, those are being thrown away.
It's cloning and all that.
It's not exactly cloning, but just that the religious body believe that there is life in that. So embryonic stem cell become a human body, form human,
Right.
So become a fetus and become a full-grown human. So people believe there's a life in it. Okay, so however, come to Malaysia, when you talk about stem cells, first thing that comes to people's mind is actually cord blood.
Right.
But there's such a wide range of stem cells.
Right.
So when you talk about stem cell, you have to talk about the source, where does it come from, and the type, whether it's embryonic, hematopoietic, mesenchymal, or cardiac stem cell, or whatever.
There's so many types.
There's many types of stem cells.
Okay, we just know, I guess as the most popular one would be the one, the umbilical ones that we know of.
The most potential, because for embryonic stem cell, for example, if you were to inject embryonic stem cell into a human body or even an animal, it's sure to form a teratoma. A teratoma means a cyst, which is tantamount to cancer.
All right.
So do not actually inject embryonic stem cell directly into any body.
And when you started this business 10 years ago, what was the initial capital like to start this?
We started with 2 million. Thereafter, increased the paid up to double it, 4 million. It's a small capital, and been growing. Our revenue this year expected to be over 15 million.
Right.
But I think it's very, very interesting. I believe that the Malaysian business community at large should be looking at industry like this, or some sort of a high-tech industries, and not to concentrate purely on the traditional businesses.
All right. So the additional investments that you're putting into it, what are you using the money for? More into research?
The initial, of course, is to start a business.
Okay.
So when we generate cash flows, we generate profit. The profit is part of it is plowed back to research, such as HUKM research and Utah research.
Okay, and I guess having been in business for 10 years now, what would be your advice to aspiring business owners?
Yeah, as I say, I think business owners, if you have a vision, if you have a certain model that is able to work out there in the world, don't be afraid to come forward and invest money or pull in some investors and start new business afresh. Don't go into traditional business of food and all these things, buildings. We have too many buildings. We have too many infrastructures. It's the software.
Yeah.
Right. Software. We have to develop the software. Human capital is very important.
But what do you feel was challenging though for you in the last 10 years? Although you encourage people to do this, what have been the challenges for yourself in this business?
I guess the biggest challenge was to convince people to those days a lot of gynaes did not even know about what is umbilical cord blood stem cells. And today you walk into a gynae and we talk about it, and they will definitely acknowledge that there is such a thing as umbilical cord blood stem cells, and they acknowledge there's a usefulness for this.
Right.
So
that was the toughest.
That was toughest at those days, and to also educate the public at large, such as today, we were talking about the umbilical cord Wharton jelly stem cells. Exactly the same 10 years ago when we talked about cord blood. So I'm also here to actually kind of educate the public that there are so many types of stem cell out there. You have to really differentiate which one is good for what purposes.
Hopefully it won't take another 10 years.
Hopefully not.
I've been speaking to James Ten from CryoCord, and on Monday in Open for Business is up the ante, and Azizul Abdul Latif and Hazniza Momazaki of Urban Village will be speaking to action coach Jeevan Sahadevan on ways to improve their business, obviously. BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.